Dr. Joel Wallach. Research has resulted in the publication of more than 70 peer-reviewed and refereed journals, articles in the field of nutrition and pharmacological research, and he has made major contributions to 8 major authored texts and reference books on these subjects. Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine, and we appreciate him joining us. And again, check it all out. We're going to be adding more videos, more audio. There's already quite a bit there at InfoWarsTeam.com, teaming up with Dr. Wallach. Doctor, great to have you on with us.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. I really appreciate your hospitality and your comradeship, and we're both on the same train, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Tell us about your awakening and how important this is, that mineral and vitamin deficiencies is what's causing so many of the problems, and the system knows this, but they want you to be sick to make money off of you.
Well, you've hit the nail right on the head, Alex. Being a veterinarian, we learned, 100 years ago, actually longer than that, maybe 110 years ago, that we could prevent and cure as many as 900 different diseases using vitamins and minerals. If we were to use the same healthcare system for livestock that we use for people, your hamburger would cost you $285 a pound just to pay for the healthcare. So we learned a long time ago that we could keep the price of eggs and meat and vegetables and fruit and bread and stuff down to where the average person can afford to eat it simply by eliminating healthcare costs. There's not a single insurance company or insurance policy that prevents or cures disease. When you buy an insurance policy and pay your premiums, you're betting you're going to screw up somewhere along the line. You're going to have a big doctor or hospital bill, and so you're building up that insurance funds so that you can pay those bills. And it's still up to us individually to stay healthy. And so I've spent, since 1964, literally educating the public on this, because it's really a tragedy that we can prevent every birth defects in animals. Nobody's paying attention for it for humans. Every OBGYN should be put in jail because all birth defects are eliminatable. We don't need to be raising $80 million a year for muscular dystrophy, Jerry's kids, because we already figured out how to prevent and cure muscular dystrophy back in 1957 in livestock, because muscle is meat. And anything that affects the meat industry gets fixed quick. So we learned that. And so I've known this since actually 1962, that we were in big trouble with the healthcare system. Been yelling about it ever since then. And I'm so glad to have this association with you now, because you're the guy who can get the word out to the public.
Well, Dr. Wallach, it's just been invaluable what you've discovered. Let's go through some of the studies, the peer-reviewed journals that you've co-authored.
Okay. Well, a lot of people, Alex, say, well, okay, Wallach, but why were you the one chosen to do that big National Institutes of Health study? The book covers 20,000 autopsies, 10 million chemistries. It's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. Why did they pick you, a dumb Missouri farm boy? And that's because in 1962, I was the first guy to actually run into the first pollution, mass die-off. Pollution caused mass die-off in livestock, and published it. And it was actually a bunch of feeder lambs. One guy had lost 500 lambs in one night, because over time they had been chronically poisoned with nitrates and nitrites and fertilizer that had gotten into as well, and affected their thyroid glands. When they had a sharp dip in the temperature, it got down to 19 degrees that night. He lost every one of his lambs, 500 lambs. All the surrounding people, all the other surrounding farmers didn't have the same problem. And I documented it very well with nitrate levels in the well water and in the feed and in the lamb's tissues. Got it published. And so I was kind of like a whistleblower back in 1962 as a result of that thing. And I was actually in Africa doing a big conservation project in the white rhino. I caught over 200 white rhino and sent them back to the United States. So if you ever go to a wild animal park or a zoo and you see a white rhino, it's either one that I caught or offspring of the ones that I caught to save the species. Well, I was there doing that, and Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual of Omaha Wild Kingdom show, I think you're probably familiar with him, he actually got the grant to do this autopsy study in zoo animals, looking for a species of zoo animal that would essentially be the canary in the mine, ultra-sensitive to pollution and would warn us of some impending pollution doom. And I did over 17,500 autopsies, over 454 species of zoo animals and 3,000 human beings, 10 million chemistries, and all in this book that's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. And that's the basic reason I was nominated for the Nobel Prize for that work. And so I was the guy that did that study, and I was an abysmal failure at getting medical doctors interested in preventing and curing diseases eat fast food, you're going to get everything you need, right? And so I went back to school and became a naturopathic physician since 1978, 34 years now. I've been on the road giving 300 free lectures, the most popular of which was Dead Doctors Don't Lie, and next came Deadly Recipe. And these lectures are my way of trying to communicate the warning to the general public that they have to take responsibility. And recently, and I'm glad you brought up a lot of the terrible things that were brought to light in November of last year, just a couple of months ago, actually. One was they said that, and this was the Department of Health and Human Services and the Census Bureau got together. They found out that medical doctors kill 11,000, Alex, people who are there on Medicare patients, 15,000, they're yelling at me, 15,000 per month. American Medicare patients are killed in the hospitals by medical doctors each month for 180,000 per year. That's just one little slice of the public. And then, of course, the audio cassette tape, now CD, Deadly Recipe. 1.5 million Americans are killed, injured by prescription mistakes. 1.5 million are killed and injured by prescription mistakes each year in America. And everybody wants a prescription. Nobody should want a prescription except for antibiotics if your kid has strep throat.
And they know this. And I mean, here's a microcosm example. In the trials of Prozac, the big granddaddy of the serotonin reuptake inhibitor psychotropics, doctor, as you know,
yes,
they knew it massively increased psychotic outbreaks, artificial mental illness, suicidal tendencies, suicide. And it took decades, up until just 5 years ago, to force the SSRIs makers to add the fact that it causes mania, psychopathic behavior, suicide. It took decades to make them put it on the label. They knew from day one. And what do they prescribe it for? Depression, when they know it actually causes depression. I mean, they're ruthless.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Prescriptions have been a nasty thing. I don't know if it's a conscious tool they use to keep the population down, or if they can't be that stupid. The doctors are very bright, but they are ignorant to things in some cases. They're able to be swayed by free lunches and money thrown at them by pharmaceuticals.
Sure, I mean, I'm not even talking about the doctors. They're kind of given from on high, like Moses on the mountain. You know, fluoride's good for you. Yeah. Mercury's good for you. You know, all of this stuff is wonderful. You know, don't treat the cause. You know, treat the symptoms. But, I mean, I'm talking about the American Medical Association and Big Pharma that owns it.
Yes. Well, you're exactly right. And, of course, here's my example to just support what you're saying. We can actually, in most cases, get rid of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which right now, if you take in the pre-diabetic patients, you're looking at 90 million Americans, which is almost one-third of our population, has type 2 diabetes. We've known the cause, prevention, and cure of type 2 diabetes since 1957, 54 years. And I'm the only guy in the world who uses it. We get people routinely weaned off their medication in 2 or 3 days, sometimes a week. And they can have, even with injectable insulin, have blood sugars of 220, 240, and within 30 days they're down to blood sugars of 72, and they weaned off their medication and go back to normal life.
Well, I mean, what about this, doctor? How about how they tell diabetic patients to drink soft drinks with aspartame in it? I've had countless medical doctors on breaking down the fact that that stuff absolutely decimates people that have diabetes.
Well, yeah. Of course, the aspartame is made out of amino acids, actually. And, of course, it acts like sugar for a diabetic. It's just they should not be consuming anything that has pure amino acids or pure sugar or agave syrup or, you know, things that you would think of as being healthy. Whole grains and even whole grain breads are bad for diabetics. Juices are bad. Fruit's bad. And yet doctors say, you know, carry around an orange, and if your blood sugar goes too low, eat a piece of fruit. Well, if you just eat nuts, if you're allergic to peanuts, leave the peanuts out. You get mixed fancy nuts and eat mixed fancy nuts, the deluxe nuts, and you'll have a regulated blood sugar that doesn't go way up and doesn't go way down. It actually comes down to a deficiency of a couple of trace minerals. everybody takes them every day, and that's why I like what we call the Mighty 90. This is what we did in the animal industry, Alex, is that we give animals...
well, Doc, I got to stop you. I was really excited about this interview today, and we tried to get a different phone line. I really want to be able to understand you and hear you, but, but the line... has just gone to where we can't understand you. I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to give you our number, and I'm going to see if you can get on with us for the rest of the hour, because this is such powerful information. I really want people to be able to hear it and understand it. We're going to work on that with Dr. Wallach. We may just have to have him back up next week. Because if I can't understand him, I can imagine some of you are having a problem, so I apologize to stations out there. I can hear a lot of it, but some of it I'm having to really strain, and this information is so important. I am really into doing things that I know can really help people. If you filter your water with the proper filtration systems, it's hard to find them. It's hard to cut fluoride out. You will have incredible health benefits. That's scores of medical doctors, endocrinologists, brain surgeons. We've interviewed them all. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of studies. That's conservative. It's in the thousands, but I've looked at hundreds. That fluoride, sodium fluoride, hurts the thyroid, the whole body. And we've been beating this drum for years. The government's finally having to admit a bunch of this. Well, another big part of the equation is mineral deficiency and vitamin deficiency. And Dr. Wallach has got the documentation on this, and we can help a lot of people with this information. Well, I've been really excited about interviewing Dr. Joel Wallach. Turns out he's on the road today, joining us via payphone. That explains the audio issues. Again, I have researched this myself. I've just looked at the mainline studies. They know that many of the fields are played out, that much of the agriculture land we're using has been destroyed because of the chemical fertilizers. The establishment knows and understands this, and they understand the mineral deficiencies we have. Dr. Wallach, give us your greatest hits. I mean, of all the research you've done, of what you understand, what are some of the biggest lies out there, and how do we reach out to people and warn them about what's happening?
Okay, the biggest lies, Alex, are when you have a disease like type 2 diabetes, and doctors will say, oh, it's genetic, we just have to be able to deal with it. And they convince people that treating the symptom, the main symptom, of elevated blood sugar is the way to manage the disease. You'll get maximum life. Well, that's not true. It's a very simple disease of what's called the insulin receptor site on the cell walls of all the trillions of cells in your body. It's kind of like turning off the breaker in the next room. You can plug in a $10 billion computer, and if the breaker is shut off in the other room, it ain't working. And the same thing is true with your insulin. Type 2 diabetics have 10 times the circulating insulin as a non-diabetic. It just doesn't work because the breakers are shut off in the insulin receptor sites in the cell walls. So what we figured out how to do was actually flip on those receptor sites, those insulin receptor sites.
Wow.
And usually, sometimes as quickly as 24 hours, blood sugar will go from 220, 300 down to 72. So you got to watch it. You have to take your blood sugar and adjust your insulin or your pills, so you don't get yourself into insulin shock, because your blood sugar will drop dramatically on this program. And people will ask me, well, how long do I have to stay on this nutritional program? For the average-sized person, Alex, it costs about $3 a day, about half the price of a cup of exotic coffee, right? And they said, well, as long as you're on oxygen, you will need these nutrients. As long as you're on water, you will need these nutrients. If you're dead and you're not taking oxygen and water, you don't need these nutrients. The reason why we're in trouble is we're deficient in these nutrients, as you pointed out so eloquently. Our fields are depleted because we're not repleting, we're not replenishing the minerals in our soil like we did in the old days. Our grandparents used to put minerals back in the soil in the form of wood ashes. They would cook with wood stoves and heat with fireplaces and wood stoves. They would take the wood ashes, which are not carbon. They may have carbon in them, but basically wood ashes are the minerals that the tree sucked up out of the ground. And they are left over when you burn the carbon in the wood for fuel. And they used to put these wood ashes, a.k.a. plant minerals, into the soil, their gardens. And then the sweet potatoes and the squash and the tomatoes and beans and peas and corn and cucumbers and melons would pull these minerals up. You'd eat the food and you get the minerals in that fashion.